The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada as a whole, there are 5.5% more people working today than was the case in 2013. But here in Nova Scotia, we have less than 1% more people working today than in 2013. At the same time, we know from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that governments have 12 years to lower greenhouse gas emissions if we're to mitigate the most serious effects of climate change, and that major job-creating investments will be required in order for this to be accomplished. Will the Premier agree that there is a real need in Nova Scotia today for a plan for the development of green jobs so that we can both improve our economy and fulfill our environmental responsibility to the world?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, the unemployment rate in the province is at an all-time low. Since, Mr. Speaker, they've been counting that statistic. I want to remind the honourable member the economy is moving in the right direction. More young people are attached to the workforce looking for job opportunities here. They see a future for themselves and their families. Through successive governments, Mr. Speaker, starting with the former Environment Minister from Kings North, Mr. Speaker, was a Conservative member through the New Democratic Party and continued through our two administrations, Mr. Speaker. We've continued to make sure that we reduce our carbon footprint, we lead the country in the reduction of greenhouse gas. And of course, part of that is ensuring that we have created economic jobs associated with the green economy. He would know Efficiency Nova Scotia is currently a standalone Crown Corp that is providing good economic jobs, not just for those people, Mr. Speaker, that are working in that particular entity, but across the province in how we're helping individual Nova Scotians reduce their footprint.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier will also acknowledge, though, that when you exclude Halifax from the calculation, there are almost 9,000 fewer people holding jobs in Nova Scotia today than when this government first came to power. And at the same time, internationally, $500 billion is being invested every year in renewable energy and energy efficiency. So will the Premier acknowledge that a bold green jobs plan is necessary for us, both for our environment and for us to receive a significant share of the world's investment in this field?
Yeah. The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for the question. I want to tell him that the policies in and around reducing individual families and communities' footprints is not exclusive here in Halifax, Mr. Speaker. That money is being distributed across the province, providing economic jobs through the very initiative that the honourable member is referring to. We should be proud of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that we're leading the country when it comes to the reduction of greenhouse gas. We should be proud of the fact that all three political parties in this House have continued down the same path. No matter what happened on Election Day, we continued down the path of improving our environment for the next generation, Mr. Speaker. But he should also acknowledge that the economy has never been better in Nova Scotia, Mr. Speaker. He should also acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, third record season in tourism. He should also acknowledge population is at an all-time high, Mr. Speaker. Consumer confidence is at a high, Mr. Speaker. Consumer consumption is growing, Mr. Speaker. That is not isolated to just Halifax. That is around our province.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party on his final supplementary.
I would wish, Mr. Speaker, to acknowledge this, that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Special Report on Global Warming last October concluded that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees is going to require what it called a rapid escalation of the level of ambition of all levels of government, including subnational levels like our province. Mr. Speaker, our party's emissions reduction target of a 50% reduction from 1990 levels by 2030 puts Nova Scotia on a track for net zero by 2050. The Liberals' target does not. Does the Premier really think that his government's emission target qualifies as a rapid escalation of the level of ambition, as the IPCC puts it?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, again, I want to thank the member for the question. He would know, Mr. Speaker, we're 30% below 2005 targets as we speak today. The national government wants us to be there by 2030. Our government, our province, of all political parties, will have us there today. Mr. Speaker, if we continue on the path that we're going without doing anything else, we'll be at almost 50% by 2030. But of course, we know there's more work to do. We're not going to stand still. Just reminded the honourable member, we're continuing to invest through Efficiency Nova Scotia that will then continue to drive job opportunities, not just here in Halifax, Mr. Speaker, but across the province. We're going to continue to make sure that we leave this province and this environment in a better place, Mr. Speaker, than when we received it. Our children and grandchildren depend on it.